Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Tuesday, September 23rd, 2025. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered. These tools are available absolutely free through the tireless efforts of Dr. Michael and Jeannie Rice on the website at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the two words that say Start Here in the upper left-hand corner, it will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Rice's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of the book contains a narrative description and explanation of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 21 years now to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships, and to turn any negative emotional experience I have into part of the infallible guidance system that each and every one of us has been given. You can also download the actual worksheet process from that page. It's a simple PDF file. Click the link, download it, print it off, copy it as often as you'd like, and use it over and over again absolutely free. You can also download from that page a whole host of audio files of shows just like this one where people have been stepped through the worksheet process. And if you choose to listen to them even repeatedly, they can serve as a powerful tutorial for you to help you get maximum benefit from these tools in the shortest amount of time possible. You can also go to your app store and type in the three words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness. If you do that, before you're done typing the word forgiveness, you'll see the glowing heart icon. If you tap on that, it will let you download a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet. It contains an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and it contains a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. We help people do all of that soon and often, primarily because it tends to improve the quality of people's lives, the more they actively apply these tools in their lives, and secondarily because it tends to prompt comments, questions, answers, and testimonials. If you have any of those to share with us, we would greatly appreciate you doing so. You can email me at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org, or you can email Jeannie at jeanie@whyagain.org. That's whyagain.org. And if you email us, we'll address it on the internet show, and then as time allows, send you a notification about what day and time that occurred so you can listen back to the archives for your feedback or input. Alternatively, if you have the availability, you can join us live from 11 to noon Central Time, almost every 5 days of the week. If you go to zoom.us and open a browser window and say you want to join the meeting ID number is 853-2357-4173. That's 853-2357-4173. And if you call in on the phone, that's the same meeting ID number, and then you can just use *6 to toggle on and off of mute. And we would be grateful to have you join us and give us your input about how these things are landing for you, because that makes it far easier for us to live into our intention with this work, to be of service. Today's a Tuesday, so there will be a support group tonight from 6:30 to 9 Central Time. And all the information you would need to join us is available on the mindshiftersacademy.org website. And there's a separate login info page there for Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we'll be there tonight, Tuesday night, if you're interested in joining, or if you want to pass that information along to somebody you think might benefit from joining us. Absolutely free. So, what's on your mind, Susan Bingham?
Hi, Dr. Tim. A lot on the mind. I didn't even say anything yesterday because I went into this state of incredible dullness, numbness, and dullness. We're just trying to deal with this grandson who is not well, and he disappeared, and we didn't hear from him for 2 days, and we thought the worst, and turns out he had accidentally shut off his phone. And my daughter found a way that even shut off phones can be pinged and located, which I didn't know about. Well, we discovered that he's in a hotel near the Canadian border, not with any of his equipment, and he's left his cat behind. And Tim got on the phone with him just a few minutes ago and the kid is blaming the family for not being there for him. And Tim said, "What can we do for you? You know what I mean, it's just a dead end. Everything is knocked down. There's so much anger there. I'm telling you, I don't know where to begin. I have to leave the room, let Tim deal with him, because he sees us as just evil. This is mental illness in a way that I haven't got a clue how to work with. I loved your interview, by the way. And I was wondering about that man,
With Cooper Davis?
Cooper Davis. It's really worth listening to. But I was struck at the very outset. If I had seen him just sitting there without even saying a word, I don't know whether I'm projecting or not, but I would have thought that there was a mental health problem there. The way he used his hand to cover his forehead and look away and look down. Your manner with him was perfect, and you just stayed calm and drew him out, and he became more and more centered, more animated, more able to answer. It became one of the richest interviews, and amazing, because it sort of showed, in a way, his progression from being, I assumed, not very okay at the beginning of the interview to being very much okay. And it was wonderful to learn how he landed on his feet with a wife who also had struggled with mental health problems, and how they'd set up this healing website. I forget the name of it now, but anyway.
Inner Compass, the Inner Compass initiative, yeah.
I think that's something that people listening to the radio show would like to know about, especially if they or anyone they know are on medications that may need another look. And I know Roger McFillin talked about that too. This was very different, but very helpful. Anyway, you sort of, are you there, Susan Bingham? Yeah, I'm here. I'm sort of frayed around the edges. At a loss, pretty much.
Yeah, well, the only option I have in times like that in my own life and the life of people I work with is to come back to basics. And just come back to the breath, and come back to the Pierre Pradervand Gentle Art of Blessing, and come back to the tools to dismantle any upset that I generate. And the more I do that, the better my life gets.
Yeah, and I haven't done enough of that.
You haven't done enough of that in what way?
Not using the tools enough. This is just a recent frustrating phone call. I have done lots of wake-up sheets. You know what they say in the Course in Miracles, you're never upset for the reason you think. Well, I think I know the reason I'm upset. And of course, there's the worksheet right there.
Right.
Put it down there and have a look at it.
Yeah, that's the whole thing is when my mind is telling me, oh, now we know the answer, and my mind is still upset, my mind doesn't know what's going on. Right?
Yeah.
Whenever I say, oh, I know why that's happening, if it's still happening, I don't know the cause of it yet. When I see the actual cause, it will lose its power to generate that behavior that is so unproductive and disturbing.
Yeah, it's crippling. It's totally just undermines concentration and everything. So,
Yeah, I flash on the Pierre Pradervand interview and his real gentle but real focused uh, points about make it heart-centered, make it loving, make it, a vision of their highest and best, and then send that energy out to them. Don't send
mhm.
the upset energy.
Yeah, I'm afraid he might be getting some of that. I talked to my daughter this morning. She's amazing. She said, "Mom, I'm constantly handing the whole thing over to God's care. I realized he was very hurt as a child. I don't know whether he can find his way back. Everything will be okay, even if he dies." She says that. She said, "I don't want to be like Mary, who said goodbye to her son when he was only 33. I don't want to be like that. And I'm not saying my son is like Jesus, but I'm thinking of her and asking for her help." She was heading out for work and saying she was okay. So, what a kid. Yeah,
Bless her heart.
yeah. So, how are you doing, Dr. Tim? How was
Well,
your weekend with your son?
I did get to have a half a day with both my sons on Saturday, and that went beautifully. The weather cooperated, and
Great.
good conversations were had. They had a rough week. They had one of their friends committed suicide, and another one tried.
Oh my God.
So two 30-somethings in the same. Well, one of them was a little bit older. One of them had been trained my other son at the job he was in, but and it's shocking, right? Because they saw him the week before, and he's just living life and got a couple young kids and talking about, yep, yeah, we'll hook up with you again soon, and then goes home and ends his life. So
Wow. They had no clue then.
no,
Well, this seems to be an epidemic. In fact, Cooper was talking about that on your interview, how the political situation and young people and the internet, young people are having a very, very hard time. And I think my grandson fits right into that. Not that he didn't have a hard time by himself in his early childhood and right through until he left home, but add another layer.
well, and it does. It adds a layer, especially if there's any kind of alcohol or substance abuse, and it adds a layer if there is the lack of a solid core in the person for whatever reason, whatever kind of traumas hit when they were younger that
Mm-hmm.
might have delayed or prevented that sense of a solid core of self from forming. And that makes everything harder to deal with
Yeah.
when that's not there.
Apropos of nothing in particular, except it sideways relates, is yesterday Tim Bingham came down to lunch and he said, if you had the chance to go to heaven when you died and not have to return to earth, would you do it? And I bought myself some time by saying, well, how about you? And he said, I would want to come back. And he gave two reasons, which have to do with just attachments to he wants to have a big, successful business and make a lot of money, a couple of other things. But he said he really wanted to be able to do that at some point. And he hadn't really done it in this life, although he was a very successful lawyer until he retired at 60, which is young, but on the other hand, he really needed to. And then he said, "What about you?" And I thought, no, but it's partly because of my grandson. I thought, no, I'm pretty much, this walk in the physical is about as much as I can
I've had
handle.
about as much of this as I want. Yeah.
All right. I'm not sure I want to come back. And he said, "Well, what about if you knew you could be with your kids?" And I thought, well, that's complicating things. There's no guarantee, but maybe I could be more helpful from a heavenly realm to them, or be closer to them from that realm than maybe on the earth. What would I be coming back as? Somebody who wouldn't be very helpful in their lives or very close to them. Anyway, I was just thinking about that, and I've loved being alive, but it's an awful lot to handle. That's why I want to get Christian Sundberg on the internet, because I want to ask him, would you come back? Oh.
And what do you imagine your response would be if he said, yes, I'd come back in a heartbeat?
Oh my God. First of all, I would admire his stamina, and then I'd say, okay, why?
Okay.
Would you say?
And what would your response be if he said, no, I don't want to come back?
Yeah, I'd just say, me neither at this point. I get it.
Let's form a club.
I know. People who don't want to come back club. Right. So anyway.
One love, one life, one journey. Right? That's Guy Finley's newest book title. It's all one thing. Everybody you meet is part of you. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's all, we're all connected.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you do, you're doing it for or to yourself as much as you're doing it for or to anybody else.
Mm-hmm. Well, did you listen to Michael's show yesterday?
Yes.
So all about AI, and he has tremendous hope and trust that he can spread his word much faster and more effectively, and really guaranteed that it won't be wiped off the platforms, because he's going to put up so many of them, they'll never figure out how many he's got or something like that. I was thinking what vitality he has, having been so sick, to continue to have that energy in spite of the energy out in the world, which is a challenge. I just came back from the refugee center, and when I walk in there, it might be my imagination, I'm probably projecting, but the energy in there is so intense. People are going through so much. It's it's just more than a person can bear. But of course, I'm feeding myself an idea about how it's too much.
Yes, absolutely. And if it's happening, it's not too much. All right, back to what your Course in Miracles lesson about how you're never upset for the reasons you think you are. Well, you think you're feeling this overwhelm or upset because of what's going on outside of you, but it's really an inside job.
Well, if we're all so connected, then we are picking up one another's stuff.
Yes, but we are the ones inside of us who are interpreting it, labeling it, and choosing to either say it's too much or it's just fine
Or maybe we're just feeling it.
yeah, well, we could be just feeling it, but if we're just feeling it, then we're not going to go to overwhelm.
That's a pile of bullshit.
I love the sing-songy way You said that now. Not that you need to repeat it, since we're trying to have a show here that's not going to get censored or thrown off of the
Right.
podcast units. But that was
Foul language.
beautifully said with a nice sing-songy voice. Well,
Well,
the thought is that, I used to think, I don't create my upset, or that my overwhelm, it's things are just too much. And
hmm
then I heard this guy, Michael Rice, talk about, well, you know what? Overwhelm and confusion and frustration and anger, these are all things we create, just like we create joy and happiness and upset and anger and frustration
hmm
or guilt or shame. And I thought, well, I had the same response you did, until I finally decided, well, let me try it. Let me put it on some worksheets and see what happens. And sure enough, the more I would be willing to put worksheets out that say my emotion is confusion, or my emotion is overwhelm, or my thought is I'm overwhelmed and I'm sad by that, or I'm angry at that, the more I realized, wait a minute, my overwhelm is dissipated and nothing has changed on the outside.
mm
The only thing that changed was my relationship to it, which is an
Yeah.
internally determined position.
Well, I've known this to be true, and I haven't done a worksheet on this. So I haven't a leg to stand on. I feel like standing on my leg and yelling, but I've had the other experience too of having this greatly relieved and alleviated by using the
Having
tool.
what?
Having these bad feelings or feelings like this alleviated by doing a wake up sheet or two or 10. So I haven't
But
got a leg
but
to
but you
stand
haven't
on.
but you haven't put that to work in this particular case about feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah, I haven't. And, there are a lot of them, like my reaction to being at the refugee center this morning, uh, Tim Bingham's conversation with Jacob, Tim was just quiet and he was listening. He seemed to be breathing and not reacting. I left the room as a sort of a non-productive response, but I wasn't involved. I haven't spoken directly to him except a couple of words the other day, which were blown off because he hadn't slept in 2 days. Well, you know what that can do. I just said, Boone, before you start anything, how about getting some sleep? And of course, he blew that off and said he couldn't. And people are breaking into his apartment and he's paranoid, so he's frightened. This is before he took off in his car and went to the Canadian border, and they wouldn't let him in because he has a police record, and they found that. And, anyway, it goes on and on. So, okay. So I'll be quiet. I will do my work and be quiet.
Okay, well, so when you say you haven't done a worksheet on that, do you want help framing it out?
Oh, we have another person on the radio show, so maybe that person, if that person wants to say something, and otherwise, yes, that would be helpful. I will go get one.
Well, in the meantime, just in case anybody wants to speak up, it's *6 to mute and unmute if you're on just calling in.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
This is Cammy.
Hello,
Me and Matt
Cammy.
are both listening, but he's in the kitchen right now. So something that I heard you say, I don't know, several months ago that just ticked me off is starting to settle in as truth. And that is, I heard you say that we never really know someone. And, my mind immediately went, I've lived with this man for 12 years. Of course I know him. One of the thoughts that I've been having about it is that people change and grow. And as we're changing and growing, we hold people, if we're going to hold on to the past, then we're going to hold on to the fact that they've never changed, right? But me and Matt are both doing our work and we're changing. And we've had to point it out to each other. Like one of us will say, I don't see any changes. And then it'll be this, and it's like, oh, so that, so that, thought that we'd never really know anyone has really been kind of settling in. And I was wondering if you could speak more to that, if like, if what I just said was like what you were talking about.
Well, it's certainly part of it. I mean, the fact that you're never done growing and expanding and becoming, so you can't ever be done learning about yourself. Well, if you can't be done learning about yourself, then no one else is ever going to be completely done learning about you and vice versa. I don't remember
Right.
the exact, the context in which that came up, but I don't doubt that I said it. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sure I can, bring up right now what the context was that was feeding that thought.
Right. I was just wondering if you had, because I'm like kind of grappling with it in my mind, just to be free from the past is is where I feel like I'm dangling around with that. It's like, no, because we are changing and growing. And just because somebody did this 5,633 times doesn't mean that they're going to do it as a reaction to something that I do or something that somebody else does, any kind of event, whether it be done by a person or nature or whatever. Um,
What about any kind of an event?
any kind of event that happens, even though it happened 5,633 times before, that I responded that way, it doesn't mean that I'm always going to respond that way. So the whole idea that we never really know somebody, if we're going to stay in the past, we think that we know them, but we have no idea what kind of transformation has happened in them since the last time that event happened.
That's true.
This is somehow like freeing me from a lot of pain and upset that I was creating.
What is freeing you from pain and upset?
Is this understanding that we never really know somebody and nobody really knows me. And I've had some very close people die recently, and a lot of times when people die you find out all kinds of things that you didn't know about them.
I've heard that, yes.
This mm, so a girl that I was closest to for 30 years. You know, we were BFFs. I found out so much, and we lived next door to each other. I found out so much that went on in their house, visiting the kids this summer. And just like, I was initially dumbfounded. Actually, my jaw just dropped even trying to talk about it because I'm so dumbfounded. And it's somehow it's just bringing me peace to go, oh, yeah, when we think, I remember what you said is what I heard your exact words was that, oh, crap, it left my mind now. Oh, it was, if you think you know someone, you don't. It's kind of, I guess that, and it may have been talking about the 9-bit mind. Which is the other part that I'm putting in. And I don't know why this is like becoming so freeing for me, because I always thought, because I thought my intuition was so intense that I knew people. But I'm questioning at this point if it was just all something that I generated in my mind. Even though I've talked to you about experiences of like thoughts coming to me before my husband died and stuff, that, you know, just stuff like that that are super clear.
Right?
Um, I I have to say that I really believe that was intuition. All this other stuff, and I think I don't know, it was you or Michael was talking about, you know, this whole thing of like being told forever that I was an empath. Um, that it's really just those feelings that we're generating in ourselves. I am not presenting a clear question at all, am I?
Well, if you thought you had a question at the end of that little pause in the festivities, I didn't catch it, but
No, the entire thing I just said, the only clear question I had, you had already answered. And I don't know. I'm just excited. Like, I feel like this is really big for me. And I guess I'm trying to figure it out. But as it settles more and more in me, I gain more peace.
well,
So,
so one of the hunches I have about this is that you're ending up, because you're doing work in other ways, you're starting to feel more solid in your own core. So then it's not feeling. One of my hunches is that it isn't feeling as threatening for you as it was originally, because you're starting to feel more solid in your own core.
yes, that
Because if
was,
you're not solid in your own core, you really think you need other people around you, outside of you, to be a certain way and to stay that way, because that's where you get your sense of solidness and security.
yes.
When your own core isn't strong enough, you try to borrow that strength that you believe you need from people around you.
Yes, it is. So the whole codependency thing, I have struggled with, I forever. And I guess we all do to some extent with the power person dynamics and stuff like that. But With me, I think it's been really extreme. Like, and I think it's exactly what you said, that like this is the first time in my life that I went head on trying to build a relationship with myself. Or I shouldn't say try, building a relationship with myself and not being so dependent on others to deter that and their reactions or their words for my safety, and living in that safety that the universe provides. I spent quite some time there back in my late 30s, early 40s, and it just went. I'm excited. That's all.
Okay,
Um,
glad to hear it.
I'm wondering, as far as like with all of that and the codependency, it's just to keep trudging on, right? I mean, and I don't even like the word trudge because it's
As opposed to what? What do you mean it's just to keep trudging on? What is just to keep trudging on?
in developing that relationship with myself to get rid of the um, fawning and codependent behavior.
Yeah,
The
the more you strengthen your
getting
sense of yourself and your core, the more you realize you're whole and complete just as you are, and you don't need anybody else to be or do anything else in order for you to feel okay.
and do you have any suggestions of other things, of things other than the tools that I've been using, which is all of them, that
Tools,
um,
other
that you
things to
talk
help you
about
accomplish what?
to kind of nurture that relationship with myself and um, become stronger in who I am, in myself, independent of other people and other people's opinions, or what other people might do that I find uh, offensive or whatever. I mean, this about my friend really blew my mind. Like, she was beating on her kids and stuff. I lived right next door. I had no idea.
Well,
No idea.
that's worth dozens of worksheets from you.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to do the worksheets, you'll start to see and unravel things about your inner life that you can't get any other way that I know of.
Then worksheets.
Yeah, it's just right there. If you just found out something horrific and mind-blowing about someone from your past, and if you think of it and try to say it, your whole tone changes, the intensity, the volume. So it's clearly still there. And whatever emotions you can be aware of, that's the beginning of your worksheet. And then what thoughts creating that emotion, etc. And I would dismantle as much of that negativity as you can. And in the process, you'll be inviting these other wounded, hidden parts of your mind to come to the surface where you can be free of them.
Yeah. Yes. Do you have, so like back in the day when I first discovered that I was codependent, and didn't really have an understanding of what that even was, Melody Beattie's books were like the
Codependent no more.
Yeah, and then whatever that other one was she wrote after. Do you know of any books well, maybe that fawning book that just came out, would be helpful. But do you know of any, like, that you would recommend?
To target what specifically?
Codependency. I don't know what's out there now. I gave up self-help books a long time ago. But I do feel like I could use some further insight into it.
Well, when you're talking about this codependency business, one of the books that I've been recommending to people for decades now is called The Verbally Abusive Relationship: How to Recognize and Respond by Patricia Evans. And it's just a really good description of verbally abusive relationships and the patterns we fall into around them, and some pretty good advice about how to, get out of them. Change your part of the pattern. And what a lot of people discover when they look at a book like that is, oh my gosh, I'm doing this. I'm doing this half of this pattern. And then my partner's doing this half of this pattern. So, it's the only reason I could ever recommend that book to people is because she titled it what she did. She didn't call it The Verbally Abusive Jerk I Married, right? She says it's the verbally abusive relationship. And
Right.
the thing about abuse is anybody, even as I walk down the street, anybody can do something abusive to me and I can't stop that. That's, I don't have
Right.
control over that. And yet, while that's true, it's also true that I have to actively participate in an abusive relationship.
Right.
So if I can figure out, am I doing something that is either promoting or allowing this pattern to continue in this relationship, then I can start changing it. So that's why I recommend a book like that. Another good book is the Melody Beattie book on codependence, although, it's a little bit old and skewed unless she's redone it in recent decades.
Mm-hmm. Who did this verbally abusive relationships?
Patricia Evans.
I mean, of course, it's going to be. That's a lot of what has been coming up for me in looking at codependency is the crap I do and how it affects people around me. So it's just like you said, because it's all smoke and mirrors. Okay. I'll check it out. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And, if you had a real rough, abusive childhood, then you might want to look at the books that are coming out around complex post-traumatic stress disorder, the Stephanie Fu book, What My Bones Know, or the Fawning book by Dr. Clayton.
Right.
And the other
Yeah.
one, if you have any love addiction issues, the book by Elizabeth Gilbert, All the Way to the River, is helping some people get clear about that. Separate out the difference between these are behaviors I'm doing because of the pattern I'm in, whether you want to call it addictive pattern or not, but it's not about love. I'm not doing this, that, or the other thing because I love this person, and I might have tremendous affection for the person. That's not, but my affection for a person is not going to drive these really unhealthy behavior patterns.
Yeah, I mean, it was a rude awakening when I realized that I chose my profession to feel better about myself. You know, yeah, the hope was to help others, but I mean, there's still that goal that I wanted to feel good about myself, and helping others made me feel better about myself. Even though I've been discovering lately that I'm really pretty much of an asshole. I mean, I really am. um, um, and I always thought I was just this sweet, gentle, loving person. That rage is so deep. Um, I did not have a verbally or, well, my biological mother's husband did beat me a handful of times and would yell at me, but mostly my childhood was pretty peaceful. It was the sexual abuse and the lies about who was who when my grandmother adopted me and all of that stuff. So that really messed with my sense of self, right? Because I knew who my mother was, and I was being told she wasn't. Um, so it's hard for me. I'm thinking it's got to be in the genetics, because that is hard for me to go, oh, that's a power person dynamic.
It's hard for you to go that what is a power person dynamic?
It's hard for me with verbal abuse to go, that's a power person dynamic, when my house, when I lived with my grandmother and grandfather, was extremely peaceful. Like I'm thinking it's genetic stuff. I
Okay,
don't.
well, so what's the difference? Do you have a clear delineation about, if it's genetic stuff, I do this to get rid of it, and if it's a power person dynamic, I do that to get rid of it? Is there a big difference in how you'd approach it?
No.
Okay.
Good point. Good point. Um,
The use of those labels, diagnoses, etc., uh, the usefulness, as far as I'm concerned, only extends to, um, does it give you a roadmap for how to treat it? Right? That's the only benefit to knowing the origin of it.
right.
And if it's not
When
going to help me treat it differently, then I don't really care whether it's a genetic thing or a power person dynamic or just karma or the luck of the draw or whatever.
right, it
I
doesn't
just
matter.
want to apply the tools to get rid of the energy in my system that leaves me feeling angry, hurt, scared, upset, sad, guilty, etc.
Right. And you mentioning that CPTSD, that was one of the things that Dr. Clayton had talked about that just really grabbed me at the end of the video, when she talked about um, like chronic invalidation
Yep.
being traumatic. So that was definitely a thing. And why don't we take that and learn how to validate ourselves.
Well, but that's the
That's a,
purpose. That's the purpose of introducing people to things like the internal family systems, the parts work, the inner child work, because that's exactly what they're trying to do, is help people understand that once that window of opportunity closes for you to get that validation from the outside in and have it build a solid core, once that window closes, it doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means you have to do it a different way. The mechanism has to come from inside you, strengthening another part inside you.
so there are people that actually learn how to do that while they're growing up because they don't live in
Yeah,
chronically
yeah,
involved
right.
relationships.
There are people who get the experience from growing up from their parents who are consistently there and for the most part firm and loving, that they don't have a big gaping hole in their center that leads them to become addicted to relationships where they're trying to fill that hole in somebody else, etc. They don't have a big self-loathing part because they downloaded from their parents this solid core self in their formative years, which is where it's supposed to happen, or one of the
Right.
I instead of saying the way it's supposed to happen, let's just say it's the best way for it to happen because it happens
Mm,
automatically as the child develops.
right. And I know that we were watching Heartland last night, and it's like, do you really think there's people on this planet that are that wholesome? Uh, And Matt's like, yes, I believe there is. And it's like, I've never met any. Not that didn't at least have to work their butt off to get there. I don't
And
know if you've ever
this
seen the show, but
no, and what show are you referencing?
Heartland, it's a Canadian show. It's just very wholesome. Would recommend it to anybody's kids that were of school age or whatever. It's just um and
It's just a
I
wholesome
don't
show,
know.
and you've never met anybody who was that wholesome in real life.
Right.
Okay.
And I guess that could just be the energy because all my life, the people that have been around me have been, or that I have been around, whatever, have had a lot of issues. And I guess that's just my energy, kind of hanging out with that energy. Um,
Yeah,
but
and
you
the
said,
energy of your family.
yeah, that's something that I, we had, I have a cousin who was adopted and she wanted to meet us one day. And she had looked up her mom and she wanted to meet all of us. So we all went over there. And her comment um, later on when she talked to my sister was, your family is the coldest bunch of people I've ever met in my life. And so I'm kind of looking at that and going, I just always thought those nice people were just like on TV, like
You thought
really.
what nice people. People who were warm
Like
and fuzzy and friendly and
wholesome. Yeah.
okay. So
Um,
that's
or they
pretty
had to
telling.
work their butt off to get there.
So that's pretty telling. What did you do with that information when somebody who has met your family tells you that the your family is the coldest bunch of people they've ever met? What do you do with that information?
So here was my comment to that, not to her. I didn't speak to her. My sister told me that she had told her that. My comment was, Well, we all came together. We hadn't been in the same room together in 2 years. We came together for, and it was like that was where my mind kind of stuck with it until recently. Like it kept coming up over the last couple years, but recently, as I'm realizing that I'm not this sweet, wonderful person that I have always viewed myself as. And so that just came up again, about her saying that. And I keep thinking, maybe we really are. I mean, I
So,
always thought
so
my
what are you going to
grandmother
do with
was
that?
very cold. I am
How
going
would you put
to,
that on a worksheet? So I was suggesting that you take a look at when you have the thought, wow, somebody who knows our family has identified us as some of the coldest people she's ever met. What emotion are you aware of when you remember that?
I don't remember having any
No, right now,
emotion.
right now.
Oh,
Think
I'm
about it.
excited. I'm excited because I think it's a key to me moving forward and being a happier person.
Okay, happier than what?
Happier than, um,
The unhappy emotion is what we're looking for here.
right.
Happier than
Um,
what emotion?
than all this fear and like
So you're
to
having
actually,
fear? Fear about
no,
what?
no, I'm saying that happier emotions than fear and pain and turmoil and all of that stuff, and being able to step out and go, okay, I'm not this wonderful just because I wasn't as bad as him and her, doesn't mean that I was this nice, sweet, wonderful person. And I find it exciting that in seeing that about myself, I can learn how to be that person that I always saw myself as. I can learn how to stand in love and hold it conscious, active, and present to be how I always saw myself. To be wow. The word that just came to mind was authentic or genuine, and I thought that I was one of the most authentic or genuine people there was.
And what you've discovered recently is that's not true. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I've been grappling with it for a few years, but as I've been really throwing myself into the work for this year, um, it's really kind of just coming clear. Um, and obviously, I'm still real fuzzy on it.
Well, I
But
would be
but
happy
my
to
my
support you in
emotion
the
is,
future if you want to map out some, we're, basically out of time now, but if you want to map out some,
oh,
you could even say, I think I'm feeling excited because of this, and then put the excitement on the worksheet. Because
yeah, I was
again,
thinking
it's an
that.
inside job, so you're the ones creating it inside you. Your excitement is not being caused by this outside event. It's something you're generating by how you're pouring your mind energy into a particular thought pattern around that event. It's your interpretation of it that holds the key for what it's resonating in you.
All right.
So I'll leave you with that. I thank you for your comments and questions. Susan Bingham, another time, perhaps tomorrow, we'll help you frame out a worksheet. I'll remind us all we have a support group coming up tonight, 6:30 to 9 Central Time. The mindshiftersacademy.org website has all the information you would need to join us absolutely free. I'll remind us all that we come from love. We're made of the stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. Blessings.